All right, we win. So what I want to talk about tonight, of course, is what now, progressives. Uh, there was this video earlier. There's a little snippet of that.
Listen.
We need to not ever use the word socialist or socialism ever again. Because while people think it doesn't matter, it does matter. And we lost good members because of that. If we are classifying Tuesday as a success from a congressional standpoint, we will get torn apart in 2022. And excuse the profanity, that's the reality.
I imagine you disagree with that assessment. Why is she wrong?
So, first and foremost, I want to acknowledge that first of all, just the really hard fight that a lot of our swing district members had. And it is not to deny that Republicans levied very effective rhetorical attacks against our party. That, I believe, is absolutely true. But I think one of the things that's very important is to realize that very effective Republican attacks are going to happen every cycle. And so the question is, how do we defend ourselves against that? If you look at some of these, some of the arguments that are being advanced, that defund the police hurt, or that arguments about socialism hurt, not a single member of Congress that I'm aware of campaigned on socialism or defunding the police in this general election. And these were largely slogans, or they were demands from activist groups that we saw in the largest uprising in American history around police brutality. And so the question that we have is, how can we build in a more effective democratic operation that is stronger and more resilient to Republican attacks? And I believe that there are many areas that we can point at in centralized democratic operations that are extraordinarily weak. For example.
Okay, so as you can see, the Democrats have already decided that they're ready to renege on their coalition with progressives. They have it in their mind that Joe's distance from defund the police and all these other issues is what got them the White House. And the reason they lost seats in Congress and didn't take over the Senate, and it was as close as it was because of that association with the radical left. So let me disabuse them from some of those notions. One, no radical left, no President Biden. This was definitely almost 99% a referendum on Trump. Secondarily, you might have got another popular vote victory, but you wouldn't be going to the White House without the Electoral College. And for the Electoral College, you need Obama's coalition, which is you need that enthusiasm in the public, that overwhelming support to make sure that you can overcome the gerrymandering. There should be no doubt about it. 74 million to 70 million is the winner, but this is America. So that does not matter. Without that push of those groups, the blacks who were suffering from police brutality and had enough this year from their own movement that turned into defund and regulate the police and all of this kind of stuff, there are no Democrats, because it could have been worse. It could have been all this support for Trump rallies and no enthusiasm for Joe Biden. So you'd have had some Democrats who just vote automatically Democrats, some moderates who were tired of Trump, and that's it. And you would have lost in a landslide because he's got the most votes of any incumbent president in history. So you needed something historical as well. And being milquetoast Joe was not going to get it. So you won with a vote for Kamala. You could not have picked a white guy to run with Joe Biden. You probably couldn't even pick a white woman, because this was all about his bacon being saved in the primaries in the Carolinas by black women. So you needed a black woman, period. Vote for Kamala or vote against Trump. Those got you the distance. And if you disavow those things, you're going to lose with popular vote wins presidency after presidency, because it won't be Trump again. Fox News was done with Trump Saturday morning. Now, I know they're kind of egging him on about maybe coming back in 2024. They're done with him. They are done with him. It's Rupert Murdoch. They always talk about George Soros, but these are Rupert Murdoch's minions. These 70 million Americans who voted are Rupert Murdoch's minions. That billionaire that's pulling their strings. That's the red meat Republicans. Rupert and the top Republicans got what they wanted. 3 Supreme Court seats and a tax cut. They don't need Trump. They need y'all out there screaming and spewing COVID on each other to get him into office, but it no longer needs to be Trump. And so Fox and much of the Republican establishment have moved on to Biden. But that is not that cooler heads have prevailed. The Republican oligarchy never cared about Trump in the first place. They care that they need enough votes out there to win the Electoral College to get the tax cut and go back to trickle-down economics. That's it. And they're willing to overlook xenophobia, racism, whatever, sexism, porn stars or whatever to get that. The red meats are out there with the Muslim ban and build the wall because it's a joke for them. They are true believers. Republican oligarchy, not true believers. They're right now pressing their lobbyists and typing up forms and memos to go work Capitol Hill under a Biden administration. That's all it is for. The rest of y'all are sending money off for these fake lawsuits, which are just to pay off Trump's campaign, and he'll probably try to pocket some of it for some of his legal woes when he gets out of the White House. But back to the infighting on the left. And it's not too early for it, because just like I was outlining here, the Republicans are getting ready to move on and figure out what life after Trump looks like and who they're going to run in 22 and 24 and 26 and 28. The Democrats need to start preparing for understanding how this election was won. Also, you have to stop letting them dictate the narrative of telling you that health care and clean air and civil rights are radical. You stop saying, oh, I'm distancing myself from that, and you go, hell yeah. Never mind, that's exactly what Joe Biden did going into the election. His ads were not, never mind that I don't think there's racism, never mind COVID, I'm not going to wear a mask. He said the complete opposite, and that got him more votes and more electoral votes. That is the fact. He said racial injustice in pretty much every ad. He said attack COVID in pretty much every ad. So I don't want to see anybody going after AOC, Omar, anybody else in the squad, because progressives are not only the future of this country, left-wing progressives. The far right is going back to 1850, traditional, get back to before women could vote or drive or stuff. But progressives have always been the ones dragging this country forward, and sometimes from inside their own party. The abolition of slavery was a radical idea. Civil rights was a radical idea. So this country is always drugged into the light and into doing the right thing and into becoming a more perfect union, kicking and screaming against the progressives. So it's always been radical. Women voting, black people eating in lunch counters, it's always been radical. whether it was called the left or the right at the time, whether it was called the Republicans or the Dixiecrats at the point. Either way, the progressives that are trying to make it more inclusive, the people who are trying to make the Constitution a living, breathing document, the people who are trying to keep us away from hypocrisy of preaching straight democracies and that we're watching this and this is an autocrat, that we actually live up to it, that our votes matter. The radical left are the only group of Americans on principle who give a shit about that, because they're willing to be unpopular, they're willing to be out of office, and they truly believe it. The left, if it's convenient. The right doesn't give a shit. It's all about selfishness. It's all about believing that the Constitution was all about white male property owners. We're in totally different boats. One believes that the country is better when the economy flourishes from the bottom up, and one believes from the top down. And like Obama told Romney in 2016, the data's in. The data is in. There's no, oh, which way should we go? There's the Clinton surplus, and then there's Bush running it into the Great Recession. There's Obama pulling things back out, and here we are again. Every time we do the trickle down, tax cuts, fuck the poor bullshit, you do the deregulations, the country runs wild. And they just create another bubble, and it takes it out on all the poor people and the working people and the tax-paying working people. There is no place for Republican economics. And you can call sensible, saved us, booming economy under Obama and Clinton socialism if you fucking want to. But those are the times that the economy is working. Period. There is no denying surplus, Great Recession. Period. He did it. Deregulation, super tax cuts, we got there. And you can go back every time you want to. We just end up with Democrats coming in, cleaning up all the tax cut fornication. They address simple things like making sure that the tax cuts are about small business.
Exemptions and credits and so forth, so we keep getting the revenue we need. And you think, well, then why lower the rates? And the reason is because small business pays that individual rate. 54% of America's workers work in businesses that are taxed not at the corporate tax rate, but at the individual tax rate. And if we lower that rate, they will be able to hire more people. For me, this is about jobs. Right. This is about getting jobs.
I believe that we do best when the middle class is doing well. And by giving them those tax cuts, they had a little more money in their pocket. And so maybe they can buy a new car. They are certainly in a better position to weather the extraordinary recession that we went through. They can buy a computer for their kid who's going off to college, which means they're spending more money, businesses have more customers, businesses make more profits, and then hire more workers.
Small business is the backbone. Care about small business. That's the only reason we're trying to get tax cuts. It's the only reason. Because small businesses are the only place where a person, a regular, hardworking, average Joe, may be pulling in $300,000 or $400,000 a year. And it's that guy. And him being able to hire a few people at his local hardware shop. That's who we're talking about. What could you do for that guy? Well, he could incorporate. And get a, if that's the lower rate. But besides that, created an exemption solely for small business. He's so small. Under 50 employees, under 100, under 150, under 200, create an exemption. It's in the tax code, it works. You don't have to give it to mega corporations and billionaires to get down to that small business that you want to help so much. You ain't got to do that. You can target it. The same way you target mortgage deductions. People who pay rent don't get shit. People who have a mortgage get a big break. So you could say, if you own a small business and you hiring this and you don't have over $1 million a year, here's what you file under. And this will get you in that tax break. Never mind the reality of small businesses getting to actually have accounting things that go towards a business that a regular person cannot count. They can write off part of their house. They can write off things that they do when they're driving all week, all kind of things that go to being a sole proprietor or a business person that just a regular person, a worker bee, is not entitled to. So what they should be working on is expanding the tent for progressives. What they should be doing is fighting the narrative that progressive socialism is something crazy rather than it's something American. It's something we've always had to do. Abraham Lincoln, progressive. George Washington, progressive. JFK, progressive. Anybody that wanted to move this country forward in the right way was a progressive. FDR clearly, stuff like that. Stop acting like it's some hippie fringe that's this, that, and the other. Otherwise, we'll pretend everything else is just trying to be your granddaddy's backwards world that can't keep up with the times in the modern day and never had a black friend and don't know why you date black people. You don't want to be a caricature, neither do progressives. This train always, 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 always leaves the station headed that way. It doesn't stay still, Democrats, and it doesn't go backwards, Republicans. Y'all drag and y'all pull and this, that, and the other, and that's always met with this. Bush got you Obama. Trump got you Kamala. Period. It is going this way. And when it stops going this way, that's the end of America. Because that is its only purpose. That is its only purpose. If it's going to lead, if it's going to be the bright light of democracy, if it's going to show the world that this experiment can work, it can only move forward. And there is no forward in backwards. So you can get on board and get ready, because that's what history is going to show. There were either people that believe women should vote, or there were people that were wrong-headed and didn't think they should. There were people that thought slavery should end, and people that didn't think so. So you can stand around with your head in the sand, and you'll just be part of that group in the history books of what the fuck were they thinking. Progressives have always been the future and always will be. There's no fringe, there's no small group of it. It's only the winning side. It's always the right side of history.